to East Week. This is part of a series of events we've been planning all week. Hopefully a lot of you guys were able to attend our webinars last night. If not, we will send a recording of those out to everybody participating in the tournament. This is just something new we're trying. Eastern is no stranger to college tennis and educating and informing on the college pathway. For 30 years, we've been running a college showcase day. But last year, unfortunately, it was canceled. And this year, we really wanted to bring something different and new to the landscape. And so we're trying this live streaming event. So even though we've got a lot of great coaches here in person, there's a lot of great coaches also live streaming the event from all over the country. So thank you for participating in our first annual event. Hopefully you guys are having fun and enjoying yourselves. And another part of the college education that we feel is really important is you guys being able to hear and speak with college coaches. And so we've got a great panel of schools up here for you today. And I don't know if I introduced myself yet. So if I haven't had the pleasure to meet you, I am Julie Bliss-Fayal with USTA Eastern. I will introduce the wonderful Eastern staff that's here with us today too. Elena Bantovska, Gustavo Loza, Kristen Semple. So thank you guys for all your hard work, for being here, for supporting this. And I can't forget about thanking East Brunswick, Katarina, Todd, Larry, and your staff for hosting this event for us. So thank you so much for having us. So now let's get to why we're really here. We've got three fantastic coaches from the Eastern section here to, answer your questions. We have a bunch of questions we're going to present, but hopefully you guys have more to add to. Let's keep this really interactive. We've got Tom Battaglia from Fairleigh Dickinson University. Tom's also been a zonals coach, which I just walked down memory lane here. And we have Ilene Weintraub from Columbia University. And Eileen's done this for us before, so thanks for being a part of this again and supporting our efforts in this college education pathway. And Hilary Ritchie from Rutgers University is here. And I had the pleasure of meeting you a few weeks ago before this at the national level too in Schenectady. So good to see you again. And thanks for letting us use your courts and for putting place like
Katarina.
So that we can run this event. So I know Lena's going to moderate this. But thanks to the three of you for being here, and I will let you take it away.
Thank you, and hello everyone, and welcome. I'm so excited to be a part of this webinar / conversation. I mean, we have some of the best coaches here answering your questions, and some of ours we put in some effort as well. So thanks for being here for me. I'm going to start literally one by one. You guys, as much as you're comfortable, you want to add anything, please go ahead. Or tweak the question, please go ahead. No problem at all. And then we're going to engage the audience as well at some point and see if you guys have additional questions to what we've got. Okay. So the first one that we have is how are college rosters currently impacted now that 2021, that season is the rear-view mirror. It's going like how, especially with COVID and everything else, looking forward to the next season. How is your team going back there?
I think we probably all have three very different answers because of where we're at. Yeah. So I could start, but for us, because we do deal a lot with scholarships, it's figuring out those players that do want to come back, that want to use their eligibility or enter the transfer portal. So it has been a lot of I think late moving puzzle pieces, but I think if you have those open conversations, it seems to work out really well, but finding out what spots you have open is a big deal. And I would say that we had one player come back for her 5th year and it worked out really well. And she was really happy to be able to play that last year. So I think that was good that the NCAA allowed them to have that one.
At Columbia and Ivy League, I think we were lucky because we don't have a maximum number of players on our roster. And so we did have 2 players that chose to take a leave of absence and will be returning this year to finish their careers. And so the way it impacted us is we will have a larger roster for 1 year. And I was just telling another coach in the back that another way it's impacted us is some of our players will now have 2 more years of eligibility. So it's almost like I'm going through the recruiting process again with them, because now they're looking to potentially go for a master's somewhere else and play for 2 more years after they graduate.
That's a good thing.
I mean, and the same for me, minus the athletic scholarships that we don't have at the Division III level. We are bringing in a record number of guys this year because of the COVID situation. Everybody has their extra year, and a lot of my guys are using that extra year to play their graduate. So we are kind of backed up a little bit on that side, but again, numbers are awesome. We just double up competition. The same thing with our women. We have 2 that are staying for another year, which is a blessing for us. So we are, a little short on numbers, so it's awesome having them for another year. So
That's great to hear. Well, we all happy to be back to normal season, right?
yes.
That's a positive. How are coaches handling future players who are looking for a fifth year that is eligibility? How are you guys doing it?
Well, for us, it's very simple because the Ivy League does not allow graduate students on their rosters. So unfortunately, we won't be allowed to have any 5th years.
So for Rutgers, it's different. So a lot of players that are looking for 1-year master's programs, it's very easy to get into this transfer portal and they're gone right away. But for us, Rutgers doesn't have an abundance of 1-year graduate programs. So it's finding somebody who really wants to pursue that. So it's a mix of finding it. And then also those players, it's a conversation of, hey, are you going to still contribute in the lineup? Are you still enjoying tennis at this point? How much do you want to just do this or just get the degree? So
Yeah, for us, it's a blessing having that extra year. That a lot of our players are deciding to stay at Rutgers, and our master's program, it's extremely flexible. So I have them for a good amount of time. Every practice they're there, every match they're there. It's extremely flexible. So just having them again for that extra year is just because it's such a blessing to have them back again.
When do you start recruiting? I think this is like a very common question, a very important question, of course. Like, when do you start looking at the what year is that? I just want to kind of look at the timing as well, because kids are like, when am I starting to do this? When am I approaching? Those questions will all start from. So how are you starting that process?
I guess I'll start there first.
Yeah.
For us at the Division III level, I'm looking more towards the back end of junior year, and a lot of seniors that have not yet committed, they're still kind of up in the air. They're not exactly sure. Those are the players that we're really trying to go after. So I'm a little later to the game. So like I said, towards the back end of junior, beginning of senior year.
For Division I, the rules are pretty clear, and we start right on day 1, and that is we're first allowed to contact players June 15th before their junior year. So it used to be September 1st, but it's actually become earlier now. And so that summer before junior year, we're calling players and we're getting out on the road and evaluating them.
yeah, very similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in terms of actually, I think that's one of the biggest things that's changed with COVID is finally hitting the road again now that it's been open to evaluate players. So, and I think for the class of 2022, we're still heavily seeing those players. So that feels late in the game for us in that aspect.
What do you look for in a video? I know I have tons of questions about those videos. Like, what do I do? Does it have to be professional video? Can I just take my iPhone? Like, how does it? Can somebody help me with it? Is it?
No music. No
Oh,
music.
I like the music.
Oh, you should.
Yeah.
Muted, I don't know.
See, everyone's
I
different,
know.
right? So it's hard to answer.
I think for me, I personally, I don't really want to see a lot of training. I would just want a match, a full match. If you have the ability to cut out, some of the timing in between, but that's the most helpful, seeing how somebody competes. So I don't want to highlight reel. I want to see the goods and the bads, right? So I think we have to see what you do really well. We have to see what you can also improve upon. And so if you can take it from an iPhone and do a full match and send that to us, that's great. It doesn't have to be professional, but that gives me the best idea of how you compete.
I agree with Hilary. I think watching someone compete is the best way. So if you could send over a practice match or a match that you have from a tournament, that's always the best thing. But if you cannot, I would say the ideal video for me looks about, 3 to 5 minutes long. I want to see every stroke, forehand, backhand, forehand volley, backhand volley, approach shots, overhead serves, returns, and then I'd love to see some points at the end, and that would be like a quick ideal video for me if you cannot send over a practice set or practice match.
You stole my thunder.
They're so thorough.
excellent.
By the time we get to you, it's
I
done.
mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, I look for match play. I don't want to see the stale, hit, 1,000 forehands, 1,000 backhands, volleys, the 8-minute long video. I've been trained pretty well at what I do. So I want to see a match. I want to see some point play. I want to see what you do when you're not hitting the ball. How are you moving your feet? Just those little things, those little nuanced things I really look for, but I'm looking for match play immediately.
I might add one other thing. And so if you do want to do some drilling, make sure that your coach or whoever is doing it is actually moving you, right? So if they're not moving you, then it's hard because everybody looks really good when you're in this much space, right?
Exactly.
No editing. Just
Yeah.
straight here, right?
And the misses are good. You want to see some misses, just like Hilary said, you go out wide for a ball and you jump into net. That's okay. Let me see how you move to that ball. Let me see how you, approach that and how you set up for that shot. So all those things are important as well.
What do you use for recruiting? I'm not sure.
I think in terms of services,
Yeah, probably.
yeah. So I think we obviously use tennis recruiting a lot. So that's a good place for us to get contact information. It doesn't mean that we're just looking at your star numbers, those types of things, but that actually helps us get a lot of your contact information. So making sure that's up to date and making sure it's an email that we can actually get in touch with you, those types of things. I think we're all using UTR more, even though the algorithm is not perfect, maybe. Those are some big things we use.
Do you guys still look at the USTA, ETA
Yeah,
rankings?
it's interesting. You guys,
Yes and no.
WTA is coming.
I think it's trying to use all of them and try to get a picture of it.
Yeah.
For us, NCSA is big for us. We're in a lower level UTR, so I'm looking for a wide range of players. I will take a raw, 4 or 5 UTR and really try to work with them and build them up. And we'll go as high as, as a 9. So I'm looking for a wide variety. So NCSA is really pretty good for us.
What extracurricular activities do you look for? What do you? I don't know, might be just tennis.
I always like when people, if they've played other sports in the past, that kind of helps. I think, it's not like we're a college, we're not the admissions people, we're not looking for everything under the sun, but it is good to see what else you're interested in and see who you are as a person, for me.
Yeah, and I would add to that I think some sports are compatible with tennis and some are not so compatible. So I like soccer. If you play a little soccer as a kid, I think it's really good for your footwork. Sometimes if you see if someone's playing baseball or softball, they're hitting the forehand, from high to low kind of thing. So I think that those little nuances can come into play. But as Hilary said, we're really focusing at least for I'll speak for myself on academics and on tennis. It's always nice to hear. I always ask what other things do you enjoy doing in your life? To get to know the player as a person. That's really important to us. But there's nothing specific that I particularly look for when recruiting the set, outside of tennis and it's super.
I think just from our perspective, we're looking for a well-rounded athlete. I love telling the story of I had a young man that came out, was eventually a captain, came out for soccer, he got cut from the soccer team, was a high school player, came out for tennis, and he was phenomenal. And he was just one of those guys that just came out and he was on the courts in the morning and in the afternoon and night. He was always there. He was always doing something. So for me, just a well-rounded, good athlete. They have a job on the side, maybe their grades are remarkable. So you look for all those little things that.
Grades are important. I don't know if you guys heard all that.
Grades are very
But
important.
academics and grades are really important. Going down to grades in school, is your school test option in SAT? Is that, do you?
It was for the last 2 years at Columbia. They haven't announced what they're going to do for the class of 2023 yet, but it potentially could go back to, being mandatory testing for applicants.
And Rutgers was waiving that as well for the class of 2022. I have not heard about 23, but so either the ACT or SAT both work.
Yeah, we are also waived for 22. A normal year, I believe it's anything over 3.4 is test optional. Anything under, you have to report your ACT or SATs. But we are waived for 22.
Just getting into your season, what does that look like, Tom? Let's start this way.
I mean, very exciting. I know for us last year was our courts are under construction. We have a brand new facility, so we didn't get to play in the fall. Not that we would have anyway. In the spring, we competed in 10 matches. You know, the protocols were, as I'm sure these coaches will tell you too, they were beyond strict. It was a very tough year all around, and what we could do, and could not do. And we had a couple issues on our teams. It was just tough. And you know, as I was just telling one of the coaches, we just released our fall schedule. I just sent it to my kids through group chat. They are beyond excited. I'm beyond excited. Like, I can't wait to get to practice. And knock on wood, I hope everything's okay. And we're so excited about, you know, we go from August until October. We take a break, and my guys and girls, just so jazzed about the season. So we're so pumped to just get hopefully back to somewhat normal.
Yeah, definitely. We haven't been able to compete for 2 seasons pretty much. So our women are extremely excited to get back out there. In terms of like logistics of what a season looks like, might be helpful to kind of map it out. But the fall in college tennis for us is more of an individualized tournament situation where, you know, every weekend or every other weekend, our players are going out and representing Columbia in regular draws like you would see in the junior circuit. And then in the spring, what our team really looks forward to is that dual match season. And that starts January 15th for us and runs through the, you know, potentially the end of May during NCAAs. And that's when we're playing all other Division I schools one-on-one. And our team record is really what we look forward to trying to be successful at.
Yeah, so they said a lot of good things. I think for me, so we had a season that was incredibly stressful and tough, but we did it and it was great. Happy that we were able to do it. So I'm really looking forward to getting our 2 incoming players in. So they'll all move in the week before class, and that's kind of when everybody, the excitement goes on. And then obviously, I think our first thing that we're doing as a team is we're going to the US Open. So we'll take the team to the Open, and then classes start. So it'll be great.
Just the Open being here. Training schedule went over tournaments. Can kids play tournaments over the year? How is what's happening in the summer? Can they play out the schedule?
In terms of our
right
rosters?
Yes. Do you allow them to play? How does that work?
Sure. So so summers they can do anything they want. They can go, they're basically on their own. Obviously we can't contribute in terms of financially with what their travel is, but we encourage them. We hope they're training and playing matches, even though they all need that break after the season. We currently don't have players that are doing tournaments on their own during our fall or spring season. That is a possibility if players want to go on their own right now. And some coaches do take them maybe to a 15K or those types of things, but it does count against your date of competition. So we currently haven't moved into that space because I really feel that the team is important. So bonding in the fall is where a lot of that happens. So we try to stay together as much as we can as a team.
This is it's a very timely question, I feel, because it's been coming up and more in the recruiting process for me. And yeah, it's something I'm thinking about because so many juniors are asking about it. And we're in the process of also building a brand new facility. And when we were planning the details of it, that's something that we kept in mind. I learned a lot about ATP and WTA, parameters in terms of space behind the baseline, width between double dallers, something I really was not aware of. And so when we were planning our new facility, we kept everything within the parameters so that potentially, hopefully we could host some ITFs or some WTA events in the future. But I have to say that I do believe the top four, what we call like the grand slams of college tennis, the level there is so much higher than any of those 15Ks, or you wouldn't believe like the difference. College tennis is really the next level after juniors. And so I think you can really get a great experience playing just college tournaments throughout the school year.
So for us, a little bit different. My guys and women, they are out playing a couple tournaments, a lot of UTR matches. They are really focused on their off-season training, which they do for about 10 weeks. We set up a 10-week program for them. So they're more focused on that. They are very, very team-oriented. They care about the results of the team. So they're going out there, they're hitting with each other, hitting with some friends, playing a lot of UTR matches, a couple of USTA tournaments here and there, but they're focused on August 23rd. So.
Yeah. So now I'm going to go into some questions from our audience that is not here, but they sent us a lot of questions online. So if I'm repeating something, I'm so sorry. But most of them are very interesting. Do you go over social media when you're recruiting someone? That's come up. Do you look at their Instagram, Facebook?
So I think this is a discussion we have with the Rutgers athletic department a lot, because certain coaches, the basketballs, a lot of these other programs, they actually go through everything and they make sure if that kid is somebody who's going to be a liability or not to the team or what they represent. Us, it's a little bit of a different level. I do sometimes follow people, but I don't have the time to be all over social media, but I do think it's something that we take a look at, and it's good to make sure, you're aware of what you're putting out there into the world.
I'm guilty of being addicted to social media. I always have my phone on me. I'm always looking at it. And yes, I look at it. If I'm friends with the person on Facebook or whether I'm following them on Instagram, it's definitely something we've started to use a lot in recruiting. And it's even a way in which we try to contact initially players if we don't have their cell phone or email address. So yeah, definitely something that we are using.
Yeah, I don't have a great deal of time, but as I'm smiling as we're just talking about this, because there is and just really be careful with what you put out there, because a young woman I'm recruiting, I did take a look at her Instagram and there were a lot of red flags on it, and I'm putting that one to the side. A lot of political stuff on there, and it was not good, and I'm like, all right, that's enough of that. So, but I do look once in a while.
Well, and I know players at other schools lost scholarships this year based on what was posted. So very good.
Yep.
Did everybody hear that? I just want to make sure. It's like,
We're looking.
no, it's definitely. When do you sign a letter of intent? When's that?
It's open now, but I think the first day you can send a national letter of intent is November, 15th, I believe, is something in there. But now it used to be very specific, but now it's more open. So it used to be 1 week, and if you missed that week, you didn't have another week until April. But now it's a longer process. So, but that doesn't happen until the fall of your senior year. So you can have a verbal commitment before that, but you wouldn't actually sign something until the fall of your senior year.
I learned something new.
There you go. We all have different things.
Yeah, we don't subscribe to the national letter of intent in the Ivy League. But I used to be the coach at Seton Hall, and we had 8 full scholarships. But when I was coaching there, it was specific, like 4 days, you had to get that letter out. But that's great. It's more open now. In terms of how we usually make verbal commitments, I would say the earliest I've ever made one is in like December of the junior year. But I would say a more common timeline would be somewhere in the spring semester of junior year or summer between junior and senior year is when they're really happening in our conference.
Yeah, ours is verbal at our level, and we have a lot of fun with it. We make a commitment letter. You get to sign it, and it's non-binding, and you get to keep it. It's on your wall. It's pretty cool. So I've already got a young lady coming at 22. She's already given me her verbal. But for the most part, it'll be beginning of senior year. I'll get a lot of verbal commitments.
So now I just want to thank you from my end, and I want to open it up for whoever is here. If anybody has any questions, feel free. This is your moment that you could kind of ask. If not, I have some more. Do we have any takers?
I have a question.
There we go.
When emailing
Please.
a coach,
State your name.
I'm Nicolette Leffler. When emailing a coach, what do you like put in the email or things that you like look for? Like, would it be easier to put a video and it will be like see it easily?
I think initially, obviously, just a little bit of background about your class, like what year you're graduating, those types of things. You can definitely put some of your statistics in there. A video attachment is great. That's always a really good thing to have, just some background on you. And I would just make sure that all that contact information, whether it's a good cell phone or home phone number, that's the best.
Agreed.
Anyone else?
Good question.
Doesn't have to be really, really long. Yeah, just like this facts, where you're from, what year you are, what year you're graduating, very important. And then some stuff about your academics and your ranking, like what your ranking is, what your UTR is, what your tennis recruiting is, and the video would be perfect.
And those are the minimum requirements. Do you have anything else that you want to ask for? Like your kids are reaching out, or parents reaching out to you? Is that you just went over a few things?
No,
UTR,
I think for me, I won't speak for everyone, but for me, if you just, keep it short and simple that way, it's a lot better than, because we get so many emails, so we want to be able to kind of look at it quickly and see if that player might be the right fit for our program.
And then get into the meat of who you are in a phone conversation or something
Right.
like that.
What not to do with each other? Because this is what you're doing. What
I'll say
you
one thing.
mentioned keep it short, right?
Yeah, I would
That's
say
important.
sometimes I get like a full analysis of a match and I don't think it's just great to kind of read through those sometimes for me, just to see what the player's thinking, but it's not necessary. And I think better avoid that, especially initially, if you have a relationship with that coach and you feel comfortable, like enough to start, kind of giving all the analysis and what you were thinking during this point, what the score was and what happened, then okay. But I think like Hilary said, initially just the facts and keeping it shorter, I think will be more effective.
I think for me, more than what not to do is making sure you have a good understanding of what you want your college experience to be like. So when you're reaching out to schools, are you reaching out to a school where you're going to play #1 singles for them? Or are you reaching out to a school where you might be number 8 out of 8? Or what do you want? Do you want to contribute in the lineup? Those types of things are really important to know before you reach out. Just because then you'll get better responses, more appropriate responses from the coaches and schools.
Don't cut and paste. Just gonna throw that one out there. At our level, we get a lot of email and it'll say dear and the name will be like, it'll be in like caps and you can tell it was replaced, or it'll say Fairleigh Dickinson University and it'll be in all caps. There's spaces between, where another school was, and they're throwing that one in there. But, at our level, kids are reaching out to a lot of different schools. So just make sure you go over the email, make sure it's grammatically correct and it looks like you want to really go to whatever school you want to go to. Something different.
There we go.
If you get a verbal commitment from a player, can you change your mind?
Can you?
Or can the child change their mind?
No, not the child, it's like can the school
Oh, the
change their
school.
mind?
Well, for me, it's very important, like our reputation for the future. So this will be my 15th season at Columbia, and I've never once, relinquished a verbal commitment in my career. It does happen somewhat, every once in a while, but I think for the most part, coaches, if they're making a verbal commitment, it means that they want you, and they're pretty serious about you, and so I think that if you feel hesitant for whatever reason, maybe it's just a matter of more communication right? And not being afraid or fearful of like just being very direct, like you are right now with your question, right? I think it's important to everyone on both ends should feel really comfortable. So whatever you need to ask or do to get there, I think would be helpful if there was any like, you know, hesitancy on your part in terms of trusting in that verbal commitment.
Yeah, I think that's a very good answer. For me, it would have to be something egregious, probably outside the tennis court, that would have happened for me to have to rescind that verbal commitment. To me, that's just the next step in terms of getting your national letter of intent, right? So no, I have never relinquished a verbal.
Yeah, the same with me. I mean, I think on both parts, both player and coach, by that point, we've really done our due diligence. We've got to know each other really well, and they want to come, and I want them to come. So yeah, in my 5 years there, I've never said, you know what, I don't want to come. So,
On that note, do you guys have anything else that you want to add that we didn't cover? If you have questions, you want to tell our children, players, what to look for, or you know, anything important that you might want to.
I just think there's so many good programs, whether it's Division 1, 2, 3, you know, whatever conference, there are so many opportunities to go play college tennis, if that's really what you want to do. So I hope you guys all explore those options and don't feel afraid to reach out to programs.
Yeah, and I would add, like, you know, don't be afraid to be really persistent. You never know what can happen. Like, don't feel like you're bothering the coach. Like we said before, we get a lot of emails. So the more you reach out, I think the more you'll stand out. And definitely be persistent if that's your dream.
college tennis is amazing. I mean, that's why I do it. I do it part-time, but I feel like it's an extension of when I was playing college, and I wake up every single day and I've got that knot in my stomach and I'm so excited to go to work every day. I love it. For those that have done zonals, I mean, it's zonals every single day. It's an amazing time. I mean, I can't say enough good things about college tennis, and just like these amazing coaches have said, like there could be a place for you if you want to really play. Do your research, be persistent, just like they said, and you'll find a great college to play for.
Thank you so much. Well, it was a pleasure. I love that conversation. Hopefully I'll do this again with you guys. And good luck for this season and next season and going forward. I hope you found something good here, that you see some of the good players. And yeah, good luck to everybody else. Thanks for coming. And don't forget to watch this again if you have any questions.
Thank you.